So, what I want to ask in all of this that we've been talking about, if you had to boil it down and say, here's the one most important thing that I want you to take away from this whole conversation and how you can act on it, what would that be?
Do the work on yourself. As a leader, seek to understand your own emotional world, your own inner state, because getting to know yourself really well will allow you to get to know others really well. So it has to start with you. You have to do the work. You have to go inward. You have to understand, why is it that when this person says this one thing, I get really angry? That's something for you to explore. Why is it that I am really frustrated with this type of project? And again, we're talking about the workplace. So I think starting with the workplace is a great place to do it. So the bottom line, it starts with getting to know yourself. Getting to know yourself allows you to get to know other people well. That then enables empathy. And I think the second point that I would offer is think of empathy as understanding and awareness without the compulsion for action. So empathy is seeking to understand the experience of someone else, putting yourself into their shoes so that you can begin to imagine what it is they're going through. And then I think the third thing I would offer, and the final thing, is that accountability is not just the accountability to the expectations of the role. I think that the unfortunate reality of the world we live in is that empathy and accountability have been pitted against each other at opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think that holding someone accountable is the greatest form of care that we can show someone else, because holding someone accountable is believing in their potential and not allowing them to make excuses that rob them of achieving that potential and making it a reality. And with accountability, use empathy not as an excuse, but as an understanding so that you can adjust your approach. You can consider the way that you communicate something. You can consider the time that you communicate something. Because ultimately, if you are tailoring your approach to holding someone accountable to the person, it's probably going to be a lot more successful because you've individualized it to their needs. Again, with the agreement that we're not equating their needs with making excuses.
I love that. And to me, the empathy piece is that I'm going to work with you. Somebody might have been sick for a little bit of time. We have these deadlines. Are there things that can slide? Are there things that can accommodate the fact that you were out for a little bit? Or to me, empathy is like, I'm understanding and I'm working with you. We're both in this together. Let's figure it out. Is that a bad way to look at that? Or is that a component of it?
I think it's a good way to think of it, with the caveat again that there's a guardrail with empathy that we have to remember, which is letting someone off of the hook. Because letting someone off of the hook is a form of enablement. And enablement, in the context I'm referring to it, is creating the conditions for someone to perform or operate in a way that is below their potential. And so I think that absolutely make adjustments. If someone has an obligation outside of work that they've communicated, that totally appropriate. It's also about understanding what are exceptions and what are habits. Because if it's a habit, it's a different conversation. You said something just now about empathy being in it with people and being in it together. And I think that it doesn't stop just there, it being in it with them. It is using your understanding of their experiences to not just inform how you operate with them or the perspective you have with them, but to develop pattern recognition over time. I think the more that you get in with people and understand their experiences, the better you begin to identify certain behaviors across time and space that you can recall and say, hey, wait, hold on. I talked to this person 5 years ago when this particular thing came up, and what I learned was this. Is it possible that a similar thing is going on now? And it's important to seek to understand, because sometimes you're totally wrong. But at the very least, it offers clues as to why someone may be showing up to work late, or not turning in assignments on time, or not speaking up during a project meeting. And it allows you to skip some steps here and say, okay, I think this is what may be going on. Let me seek to understand if this is actually the case.